In this video, I wanted to share some of the things that I had to leave behind in order to really thrive here in my new home across the pond. Some old habits, mindsets, and honestly, some deeply ingrained American ways of thinking.
We're really looking forward to seeing what American YouTuber the Hickson Diaries had to leave behind when she moved to the UK.
As to Brits living in the USA, we're intrigued. So, let's find out.
Not choosing to fit in and embracing my uniqueness. I have to admit, when I first arrived, I was really focused on fitting into the British culture. I didn't want to stand out. I wanted to be like the American that's not the stereotypical American. But I did learn that by embracing my own quirks and embracing who I am, that being authentic in the end always goes over better. And the real key is to just thrive and not conform to a mold.
Yeah, I can relate to that. When I initially moved to America, I can certainly say I didn't try to fit in. I was very proud of being British. I came here about 12 years ago and I was already who I was, and I wasn't going to change who I was just because I came into a different country. It was quite nice actually, because as a British person, you're very popular in America and they love your accent, and it's kind of really nice because you felt a bit special.
Yeah.
Like in the UK we blend, nobody really notices you or anything, but here, since you open your mouth, people are interested. So actually, coming across the pond the other way, I found that I embraced my Britishness more so than I would in the UK. What do you think?
I completely agree. I think I became more British, at least at first.
Yeah.
Because it was so embraced, which is lovely.
You're so welcoming. You're lovely guys. You just make us feel so welcome and a little bit special.
Yeah, a little bit special. I'm really glad actually she felt accepted as an American in Britain.
Yeah.
Because I think we do have a reputation, at least in Europe, as being very inward looking and anti-outsiders and that kind of thing, as a perception that I've noticed a lot of Europeans have told me about Britain. So it's really nice to hear that this wasn't her experience and she felt like she could fully be herself and be accepted. I think is great. Yeah. And I think as a country, actually, we are quite accepting of people who are different, maybe people who are a little bit more eccentric, a little bit more individual. We love something that's a little bit quirky. Not saying she is, but just in general, we love something that's a little bit maybe quirky or unique or offbeat.
Yes, indeed. More so than here, where there is a sort of feeling you have to conform more. I'm so pleased that she's found life in the UK so comfortable, and that it's a relief as a Brit to know that other Brits have totally embraced her and accepted her. Brilliant.
The idea that working is enough. In the United States, everybody's hustling all the time. Now, some of that, in all fairness to my fellow Americans, is out of necessity because it's a very, very difficult economic situation right now. But the whole idea of making yourself into something out of nothing, or that even a poor immigrant can rise up to become, president of the United States or something of that same stature, is the American dream, is the whole idea that we sell the world on about America. So hustle is built into the culture. You'll end up working yourself into the ground because that's what's expected of you by your boss, by society, by culture itself in America. Here in the UK, I really, really quickly learned that working hard isn't the same as working intentionally. That whole adage of work smart, not hard. Here, you can leave the office at 5 and you don't feel like a failure and you don't feel like you're letting anyone down. Not only did I feel less stressed and do I have an opportunity to really enjoy my life and the people that are in it, my productivity actually went up because I knew I didn't have those extra 15 minutes, or I knew I wasn't going to work through lunch. So I was more focused and I was more intentional in all the decisions that I was making and how I was doing my schedules at work.
Happy, well-rested employees are always going to be the most productive employees, I think. It's that whole thing of you can't pour from an empty cup. I was explaining the cup thing to Mum earlier. This idea that we all have an internal cup, and when we push ourselves past our limits or do things that drain us, our cup gets emptied and then we have nothing to give to other people around us and our work and things like that. So you need to do things that fill your cup, things that give you personal fulfillment, or the things that make you feel rested, or basically taking care of yourself so you have a full cup and you can give to others from that cup.
Yes.
in a nutshell. And I think a lot of people in America are working with empty cups. That's just my perception. And I think in America, you really have to insist on things that are going to help you do that. Because in the UK, we have more workers' rights and those things are just given to you. Pay time off and sick leave and things like that. In America, these things aren't guaranteed for every company that you work for. So you really have to, and not everyone can do this, obviously, because people are just trying to get by. But I think as much as we can in America, we have to set boundaries for ourselves as to what we will and won't do, not just with work situations, but maybe other things that we take on, things for other people, community stuff, family stuff, and protect ourselves so that we can fill our cup and give to others. And in the America, I think this is harder to do.
Yeah, what she said.
Learning to help those who need it, not those who expect it or those who are just trying to get something for free. In the UK, I've had to get really honest about who deserves my time and who deserves my energy. There is a very communal culture here in the UK, and it is set up to help those that are most dire and most in need to thrive and at least do better. In the US, it's not really like that. And you hear a lot of stories and you end up encountering a lot of people that are trying to buck the system or trying to get something for nothing or expecting something and being entitled for something. I used to be a person that would lend a hand to all those people, and I used to be a person that would do whatever I could to help them thrive. But in the end, I was the one who was missing out, and I was the one who was always left behind. I've learned there are people that deserve help. There are people that actually benefit and appreciate the help, and you can give all of that energy to those people. But you don't have to hold their hand the whole way. And you don't have to be responsible for any fallout that comes if you decide it's time to take your hand away.
As a culture, people in the UK are very annoyed when people get free handouts.
I think they are here in America as well.
They're very annoyed here. I think in the UK, it probably is easier to get help, and that some people feel that people are getting help and they're not entitled to it, and that we as a country are over generous and that we're giving handouts to people who don't deserve them. Yeah, absolutely, we should help people as a nation. We've worked for legislation that actually helps employees and helps those who are sick or helps those in need in other ways. And that's fantastic because our welfare policy is brilliant. But I think some people think that it's far too generous. And I would say we are more generous in the UK from that perspective than they are over here. I think what she's really talking about is her own personal growth. As you mature, you learn various things through life.
I think what you said is correct. This is about her personal journey and learning to set boundaries and learning where to give her time and attention. And I think that comes from getting older.
The need to strive for perfection. Look, perfection is really overrated. No matter what task you're doing or if you're talking about yourself, you're never going to achieve perfection. No one ever does. In America, it seems like perfection is everything. Whether it's your job, whether it's your social life, or your appearance, your partner, your kids, what activities they're in, what schools they go to, everything is about appearance and the appearance of being perfect, the appearance of fitting a certain mold. In the UK, that is not the case. Imperfection is actually embraced. I had to learn that it was okay to make mistakes and that not everything in my life has to be flawless and that a perfect life is really subjective. I just felt lighter. I felt calmer. I feel happier. And if you're someone that's been stuck in that cycle of perfectionism, I encourage you to really take some time to consider what you think freedom feels like and go for that instead. And stop worrying about being perfect because most of the time, nobody cares anyway, and you're just making yourself crazy for no reason.
I think I'm a natural perfectionist, even when I did live in the UK. So when I moved to America, I think there was almost a comfort in, oh, everyone's like me. Everyone kind of has the same attitude. And I kind of felt very, I suppose, welcome and accepted because of that. And I think that's one of the reasons, definitely not the only reason, but one of the reasons why I've done quite well here, because I naturally embodied that. I think there's a lot of people who get a lot of gratification from seeing, oh, can I be better? Can I do this better? But I think it can become a problem when it maybe leads to things like anxiety or unnecessary stress, or stops you from doing other things that you might enjoy, stops you from relaxing, stops you from finding a good balance of life, which I do think America can lean towards sometimes.
I think so. I think Brits do in the main give themselves time to just take stock and have time with friends and family and not feel so guilty about it from a work perspective.
Yes.
I think in the main that is the case, and that you're not frowned upon for doing so. Whereas over here, I don't think that that's seen as a good thing.
I think it can be seen as maybe, oh, they're slacking off, or they don't care about their job, or they're not ambitious enough. I think those would be things that might be projected onto someone if they were to actually say, no, I'm taking some time for my life. I do like what she said about, you know, if you are a perfectionist or you have perfectionist tendencies, think about how does that balance with freedom. And I think for myself, and probably America and the way things are out here perpetuates this, I've sacrificed a feeling of freedom in order of pursuing this idea of perfection. As I say, that's been pushed forward since I've moved here by just being in an environment where lots of people are the same. I'm not saying, you know, sometimes I think being perfectionist can be a good thing, because I think I've achieved more than I might have otherwise achieved, and I'm very proud of those things. But also I think, it needs to be balanced, doesn't it? It needs to be in line with this idea of, am I sacrificing my freedom for whatever this is that I'm pursuing?
Sometimes people are going to be upset, and it's okay to just let them. This is one that I still kind of struggle with, I'm not going to lie. I grew up in a situation where emotions were always really high, and if someone was upset, it affected the entire household, and everyone kind of had to stop and deal with whatever the issue was that was making that person upset. And I realized, finally, in my old age, I'm not here to be liked by everyone. And no matter how hard I try, someone's probably going to get upset somewhere along the lines. And you know what? It's okay. I can't please everyone. And frankly, when I did try, I just ended up really exhausted and stressed and miserable. Plus, the British people are low-key pretty amazing at ignoring drama. Like, most of the time, they don't want to get involved. They don't want to create. It's just a very keep calm and carry on. That whole attitude from the war, still very prevalent today.
So I've lived in America for about 8 years now, and I went home recently, and that was my first trip home in about 5 years. After my most recent trip to the UK, I would have to say, unfortunately, I completely disagree with this. I had the complete opposite experience. This isn't in relation to any one particular person or one group of people. This was just a general feeling with pretty much everyone that I came into contact with, that it was about to all kick off. There was lots of little spats happening, a lot of drama, interconnected drama between people, and it made me feel actually quite anxious. And I'd forgotten that feeling. I'd forgotten how I felt when I used to live there. I felt like I was constantly having to watch what I said, make sure not to upset anyone, keep the situation as mellow as possible. Living in America, I haven't felt that for a very long time. I find people here, and maybe it depends exactly where you are in America, but I think people here are a lot more laid back. Like, they do have fallings out, and there is gossip, and of course there is drama wherever you go. But I feel like in America, when people share that with you, they're not expecting you to take it on, to kind of embody it as your own, and to kind of pick a side and get involved, really. And the other thing I think about Americans as well is because they've got this idea of self-improvement, they're more open to suggestions, they're more open to, oh, have you thought about this? Have you considered that that person might have felt that? As a natural mediator, I find myself getting into a bit of trouble in the UK because I don't think in general people do want to hear that. It was just a general feeling that if you say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing or don't offer the correct feedback at the right time, this person was going to fall out with you.
Oh gosh.
And I haven't felt that here. that I can think of in the entirety of my time here.
I do think British people are very confrontational in their friendship groups, and there are lots of falling out. It's interesting that you two have had completely opposite experiences.
Definitely, definitely. And I wonder if it might be something about moving to another country and not having those deeper roots that allow you to avoid drama.
I think so, yeah. I think with newer friends, once you've got established a bit, there's less inclination to have all these little spats.
Yes, I wonder if it's purely just moving somewhere else that helps you feel that.
Please let us know your experiences of living in a new country.
If you've enjoyed this video, then please give us a like and maybe share with a friend and hit subscribe to follow us on YouTube.